4th episode of this season of War Machines. We continue the opening round in this episode as we are approaching the halfway point in it. Quite a few returners make their debut tonight, along with several more newcomers appearing in this episode who all look to prove that they have what it takes to take one of the 3 War Machines titles. So now, let's see who is on tonight's fight card. To lead off this fight card, we have the battle of 2 nasty drum spinners, as we'll see Copperhead take on last year grand finalist K2. Second, we have 2 more returners, as the vertical spinner of Bombshell will take on the unique lifter design of Slammo. Next, the flaming hammer of Blacksmith returns to the arena and will take on the lifter of Mammoth. Following that, we'll see the horizontal saw of Battlebots will take on the undercutter of Clefricon. The 5th fight of the night is a Bugglebots face-off, as the drum spinner of Bourbon 2 will take on the lifter of Sir Lancefrog. Another matchup that you won't want to miss tonight features the hammer of Beta who will take on the full body spinner of Ziggo. Our first highlight fight of the night features a fight between the Wedge of Lightning and the Crusher of TX-109. Next, the cannon of Double Jeopardy makes their War Machines debut against the horizontal spinner of Kingpin. Following that, Decimator and their nasty horizontal spinner will take on the flipper of Tsunami. Next, Hardwired 2 and their well-armored Wedge has a fight coming with Suitcase Nuke and their destructive horizontal spinner. The last highlight fight of the night features the Crusher of Famine who will take on the Hammer of Steel Avenger. Next, we see the return of Witch Doctor, a fan favorite from Battlebots, who will take on Axe Backwards, another returner. Following that, Marvin returns to the arena with their horizontal spinner, who will take on the Clusterbot Wee Woo. The second to last fight of the night features a battle between Battlebots and Robot Wars Legends, as the lifters of Behemoth and Vlad the Impaler will clash tonight. And finally, we have the main event, which is a face-off between 2 Bugglebots 2019 grand finalists, as the vertical spinner of Saw Loser will take on the undercutter of Mini Spinny Mark II. Another great lineup is here for us to see, and I am very much looking forward to this. Let's now get to our first matchup of the night. We start off in the Battlebots and Bugglebots class tonight for our first matchup, where we have 2 very similar designs about to clash. On one side, we have Copperhead, a returner from last year who's also a competitor in Battlebots. Copperhead had a first round exit last season against Minion, but are back and looking to go way further than that this season. Copperhead has a nasty drum spinner, but one big problem is those exposed wheels that their opponent might be able to take advantage of. Their opponent is K2, who happened to get 4th place in War Machines last season, which is very fantastic through the use of that Egg Beater spinner. K2 is very well armored and they have a powerful spinner, but gyroscopic force there, causing them to swerve up in the air on turns, could be a problem in this fight if they are not careful here. This should be a very interesting matchup. Before we begin this fight, let's see some highlights on one of these 2 competitors. Through the use of their powerful spinner, K2 managed to punch their way through their heat and through the semifinal all the way to the grand final, through the use of that powerful weapon as said. K2, that was a force to be reckoned with last season. They came up just short of the War Machines title last season when they ran into Hydra and then Ice Wave for their 3rd place fight. But K2 is back once again and looking to cause a lot of mayhem and go a few steps further. So now, let's get to the fight. Here we go. Both bots getting their weapons up to speed here. We see some weapon-on-weapon exchanges. I see some pieces of Copperhead's drum spinner going flying already. K2 opens up the Pit of Oblivion, Gyroscopic forces getting into action here for both bots here. But now Copperhead taking a few pieces off of K2, doing some damage of their own. Excellent start here for both bots here. I see some weapon on weapon grinding here. More pieces are flying. Looks like both spinners took some major damage from that last weapon on weapon exchanges. Neither of those spinners look how they did at the beginning of this fight here. Now K2 pushing Copperhead down the pit of oblivion, and K2 wins it by knockout. K2 on the attack right from the start in this one. We did see Copperhead get some opportunities in with that spinner, but we saw K2 do a ton of damage themselves in this one. And this exchange coming up soon here caused a lot of damage for both bots, as we saw pieces of both drum spinners going by, but it was K2 that managed to get the opponent down to the pit of oblivion. Impressive 39-second victory for K2. And now coming up next, we remain in the Battlebots and the Bugglebots class, where we will see Bombshell take on Slammo. On one side, we have the vertical disc of Bombshell, who had a first round exit last season. That design is very fast. That wedge is low to the ground, and that vertical spinner will send their opponents flying if they are not careful. But of course, they do struggle to self-right, as we saw that a lot last season, and I imagine this could be a problem if their opponent gets them in the right position. On the other side, we have Slammo, who also had a first round exit last season. This is a very interesting design, as they have both a grabber and a lifter here. This design is very durable, but their design typically doesn't cause a lot of damage, so that could be a problem if this fight was to go the distance. I'm looking forward to this fight, so let's get right to it. Slammo rushing right out of the gate. Bombshell doing the same thing. Bombshell got in there first, but Slammo gets a flip on Bombshell. This is exactly what Bombshell needs to avoid here. Slammo getting a big lift there, but they do help Bombshell self-right here. Bombshell right at the side of Slammo getting a few shots, and with that vertical spinner here, this will be big time points in the hands of the judges here, especially in the damage category, and our judges love to see damage done by the primary weapon here. It's Bombshell on the chase here, but they're in the grasp of Slammo once again, and gets hurled over to the other side by Slammo. And now Bombshell gets hurled back once again, and they are flipped over on their head. Slammo just not giving Bombshell an inch here, proving that they are the lower to the ground machine between the two. But now Slammo underneath Bombshell, trying to get them out of the arena, but just missed. But they do open the pit up. Instead, they rammed Bombshell right into the rails here. Bombshell's got to get something going and fast here before Slammo gets a good grip on them. And they have them once again. Does Slammo have Bombshell in a perfect grip here? Yes, they do, as they are dumping Bombshell down the pit of oblivion, and Slammo wins by knockout. And boy, this was an impressive one here. We saw Bombshell get some early hits in at the beginning of this fight through the use of their vertical spinner. That was a nice job on their part there, but they struggled to do very much since that, as they were just getting tossed around by Slammo ever since that moment here. As we saw Slammo just constantly getting underneath Bombshell, just hurling them aside, just not giving Bombshell an inch. Very impressive win by Slammo, and this will definitely be very effective when it comes to the seeding process for this competition. Very impressive fight by Slammo, and Bombshell will be in the hunt for one of the wildcard spots for this class. Coming up next, we have the Flaming Hammer of Blacksmith and the Lifter of Mammoth. On one side, we have Blacksmith, a semi-finalist from last season, one of the surprises there. Now, as we got Blacksmith with their Flaming Hammer that has provided us with a lot of entertainment there. This bot is very durable and very reliable, but then of course that hammer isn't the most powerful weapon here in the competition. Even with that problem, Blacksmith is still going to be one to watch here in this tournament. On the other side, we have Mammoth, one of the most unusual designs and also one of the largest designs here in the competition. They have that amazing lifter, but of course if they do get flipped over, they do tend to struggle to self-right. This should be an interesting fight, but before we get to it, let's see some highlights on Blacksmith from last season. Last season, Blacksmith managed to punch their way into the semifinals through the use of their incredible reliability, their high durability, and of course, that good-looking flaming hammer. It might not cause the most damage, but it did cause other opponents a lot of pain, and of course, it is very fun to watch. So now, let's get to this action-packed fight. Here we go. Looks like Blacksmith is going to try to maneuver around to the sides of Mammoth, but right now they're going head on, and right now Mammoth is getting underneath Blacksmith, and they get a flip early and ramming Blacksmith into the rails here. This is not where Blacksmith wants to be here. They do have that flaming hammer going, and that thing looks awesome. But now, Blacksmith is free, and right at the sides of Mammoth, they land a shot with the hammer, and Mammoth is flipped over. Mammoth, they cannot self-right here. Think this could a countdown be coming soon? Blacksmith is not done with them yet. They strike the control board with that flame going at full speed here. Blacksmith eyeing that pit button, and they hit the pit tire, open it up. Are they going to try and put Mammoth down the pit of oblivion? Countdown is going on Mammoth, but Blacksmith says, screw the countdown. I want to put Mammoth down the pit of oblivion here. Putting them down there, and I see Mammoth hitting the bottom there. Why hasn't the fight been called off yet, I wonder? Mammoth, Blacksmith trying to completely put them down here, but struggling to do so. Blacksmith trying to use that flaming hammer to knock Mammoth completely down the pit. But what's going on here? But now the fight has been called off as Mammoth clearly is down the pit of oblivion, and Blacksmith has been awarded a knockout here. We saw Blacksmith trying to maneuver around, but ended up going head on and regretted it big time at the beginning of this fight, as Mammoth managed to get an early flip, but then Blacksmith did manage to get to the sides and managed to eventually flip Mammoth through the help of the rails here. They did manage to get a few entertaining shots in with that flaming hammer, and eventually took a little bit for them to fit Mammoth all the way down the pit of oblivion here. Impressive win by Blacksmith here, and Mammoth will be awaiting to see if they were awarded one of the wild cards for this class. Coming up next, we go to the DSL class for their first fight of the night, which is between Bot and Clefricon. On one side, we have Bot with a horizontal saw here. This is a very interesting design. They have a rod up front, which gives them a serious reach advantage, but they do have those exposed sides, which could be a problem if they are not careful in this one. Their opponent is Clefricon, a undercutter or a horizontal spinner here. That spinner is no joke, as that thing can cause quite a bit of damage, but of course they do have those exposed sides, and worst of all, those exposed wheels, which could also be a problem if their opponent was to exploit that issue, and I imagine they will be attempting to do that. Who wants to see this one happen? I sure do. Let's get to this fight, which is going to be happening now. Here we go. Here comes Bot. Ran the attack using their reach advantage, here, trying to get to those exposed wheels on Clefricon before Clefricon can do some serious damage here. And we see Bot ram Clefricon into the rails through the use of that rod here. They seem to be taking control of this fight, but neither bot really seems to be doing much damage here. And that is what we're watching this video to see here. But right now, neither bot really seems to be getting much going here other than in the control and aggression area. Bot opens up the pit of oblivion here, But as of damage area, it seems to be a stalemate, as neither bot seems to be getting anything going as of now. Billybot using their reach advantage to their advantage like a pro here. They are trying to take control of Clefricon. They tried to ram them right into the rails there. Smart strategy here. But now Floor Flipper gets in on the action and Clefricon is flipped over and they're in half here. Oh my goodness! Clefricon is in half. Their wheels are on one side, their weapon is on the other, and it is spinning out of control. Because in the weapon areas where their main control board is, that is currently where their main bot is right now. But could we be seeing a countdown coming soon? Maybe. Right now, that is a lot of uncontrolled movement, which is actually counted as movement, so Billybot will need to slow down that spinner, so that way they stop moving, or lead them over to the Pit of Oblivion. Billybot trying to do so through the use of that rod. We see Clefricon, that weapon part, just spinning in circles back there. And now it's out of control once again. The option might have to be lead them towards the pit here. Less than a minute to go in this fight here, as we just hit that mark. Billybot ramming Clefricon's weapon into the rails, just trying to break that spinner or something. Try to lead them towards the pit here. Clefricon is that close to it. Right now, Billybot leading them over, and down goes the pit, goes Clefricon, and Billybot wins this fight by knockout. And I gotta say, this was looking like it could be a boring fight at first. It looked like a real stalemate at first. Other than that rod getting in the action here, giving Billybot a lot of control, which is actually quite impressive here. Now, as we saw that rod was pretty much what helped Billybot at the beginning of this fight here, as it definitely helped keep Clefricon's weapon away from them. But then at this point here is when disaster struck for Clefricon. The Floor Flipper launched them up in the air, and then Clefricon used their saw, and boom! They are in half there. And all Billybot needed to do left was lead the main part of their bot to the Pit of Oblivion and get the knockout. Coming up next, we go back to the Battlebots and Bugglebots class, where we will see Bourbon 2 take on Sir Lancefrog. Both of these bots are newcomers, and up first we have Bourbon 2, a drum spinner here. They definitely have a very powerful drum spinner up there, and we could be seeing a lot of big action from that thing. But of course, they do have those exposed sides, and I imagine their opponent is going to try to outmaneuver them and try to get to those sides. Their opponent is Sir Lancefrog, a lifter. That bot has a lot of push power to it and is quite low to the ground. This bot does struggle to flip itself back over, even though it can drive upside down, but it is less effective upside down. And as long with that, there are those exposed sides that their opponents could take advantage of. So now, let's get to this interesting face-off. Here we go, Sir Lancefrog on the attack here, going head on and getting a flip early on Bourbon 2, but Bourbon 2 lands right side up here. But now Bourbon 2 getting underneath, doing some damage to the underside and ramming Sir Lancefrog into the rails here. Sir Lancefrog has got to get free fast, and they do. Sir Lancefrog moving towards the Pit of Oblivion and takes a shot from that drum spinner once again. Sir Lancefrog's got to be careful here. I see some pieces flying off here. More bits and pieces flying off. More shrapnel from Sir Lancefrog. Bourbon 2 is doing some major damage with that drum spinner here. And now Sir Lancefrog has flipped over, ramming right into that drum spinner there. They are definitely a lot less effective when upside down, as they don't have that ground game advantage that they would have at the beginning of the fight when they were right side up. But now, Bourbon 2 underneath Sir Lancefrog, and a shot from the Floor Flipper results in the wedge getting taken off of Sir Lancefrog. That is not good here. Sir Lancefrog might be in trouble here and might need the pit. Can they get Bourbon 2 down the Pit of Oblivion? And they do through their push power. Sir Lancefrog wins this one by knockout. And let's get to the replays here. And boy, this was a real back and forth fight here as we saw Borbin 2 getting some major action and with that drum spinner destroying the bottom of Sir Lancefrog here, including taking off many bits. But Sir Lancefrog just kept fighting, even though around not long after this, they happened to lose their lifter as well as a lot of bits off their front, leaving them with only their push power they could use and needing to get Borbin 2 down the pits, which they were successfully able to do. Excellent fight here by both bots. Coming up next, we go back to the DSL class once again, where we will see Beta take on Ziggo. On one side, we have Beta, a returner from last year. They won their first fight, but fell to Blacksmith in the second round of their heat. Still, that hammer that they have is very powerful, and it can dish out a lot of damage. Of course, though, they do have some exposed sides, and their armor is relatively delicate here. Their opponent is Ziggo, a legend from Battlebots Comedy Central, is that full body spinner is quite powerful. That thing will cause a lot of destruction, but of course a big problem though is their stability, and that wedge of Beta could give Ziggo a lot of trouble if Ziggo is not careful. Still though, that spinner is very powerful, and I could expect, no matter who wins this one, both bots are going to come out with a lot of damage. So now, let's get to this one. Ziggo getting that spinner up to speed here. Here comes Beta, slow approach here. But now Ziggo spinning out of control here. It was definitely expected that that wedge on the front of Beta would give Ziggo a lot of trouble as for their stability issues. But Beta landing a shot or two there and getting Ziggo in position to land some hammer shots here. This is not where Ziggo wants to be as they are pinned against the rails here. They gotta get free and fast as Beta is landing hit after hit on them. Ziggo is now free, but now that spinner, is it down? They took a few more hits, but now they got it going again. And taking another hit is Beta, but Ziggo seems to not be getting exactly the best out of those exchanges as they seem to be spinning out of control here. That wedge is helping Beta a lot in this one. But now, looks like Beta, I spoke too soon, as Beta lost part of their front armor there. That's not good. But right now, Beta, they are still on the chase, still chasing after Ziggo here. I see some smoke coming out of the weapon area and Beta. That's not good. As Ziggo trying to get away and now getting that spinner going once again, looking to cause some more damage here. But now, getting a few jabs in, but now they're spinning out of control. And now they take another shot from Beta, and now Beta on the chase once again. Can they get Ziggo up against the rails once again? And they do, landing a few more hammer shots. This is not good. Ziggo's got to get free and fast. And now Ziggo, their control board's in trouble too. Ziggo is clearly taking damage, and I see smoke coming out of Ziggo as well. Both bots might be in trouble here. Now Beta's got Ziggo pinned once again. Can they finish the control board? And they do. And Beta wins by knockout. And I gotta say, I did not see this coming here, as I knew already that that wedge was going to give Ziggo a lot of trouble here. But then Beta just used that to their advantage, managed to pin Ziggo against the rails a few times, and managed to just pulverize them with that hammer there. Very effective strategy for Beta. Nice driving there, and yeah, Ziggo definitely had trouble there with that wedge, as we saw them constantly going out of control here, even though they did manage to get some damage in. But then at this point here, Beta got a ton of hammer shots in, managed to pin Ziggo once again, and eventually finished off their control board. Effective win for Beta here, and we'll have to find out if Ziggo will get one of the 7 wildcard spots in the DSL class here. I bet they will be a strong contender for one of those spots. So now we get to our first highlight fight of the night, which features the Wedge of Lightning and the Crusher of TX-109. This should be an interesting one. So now we saw Lightning get in with that wedge, giving TX-109 a lot of trouble, forcing TX-109 to have to outmaneuver Lightning, which they were able to successfully do and get multiple very good bites in there with that Crusher here, which got them a lot of damage points if this fight was to go the full 3 minutes. But despite them getting flipped over by Lightning not long after that, TX-109 happened to get the last laugh in this one and managed to push Lightning down the pit of oblivion. Next, we have the debut of the cannon of Double Jeopardy and the horizontal spinner of Kingpin in the Battlebots and Bugglebots mod. And we saw an early shot by the horizontal spinner from Kingpin, but ever since that happened, Kingpin never was able to get their weapon up to full speed, as that was just denied and brilliantly by Double Jeopardy here. And it wasn't long after that before Kingpin got flipped over, and it was all over for Kingpin until as they were soon counted out and Double Jeopardy was given the win by knockout. Now we have Decimator and Tsunami from the Robot Wars class. A horizontal spinner and a flipper battle here that should be epic. We saw Decimator get some shots in with that horizontal spinner early, but Tsunami proving to be well armored here along with the powerful flipper they have, and they showed that off in this one as we saw Decimator get some massive air time in this one and nearly get sent out of the arena multiple times here. So we saw multiple big flips there, and it wasn't long before this happened. The loss of the horizontal spinner by Decimator, and soon they were flung out of the arena and Tsunami wins by knockout. Now we stay in the Robot Wars class where we have the Wedge of Hardwire 2 and the horizontal spinner of Suitcase Nuke for our next one. And Hardwire 2 proving to be very well armored along with a quick and low to the ground design here, as they were able to take so much punishment from Suitcase Nuke here. Literally, they just charged, just kept charging, just stacked up on aggression and control points, prepared for if this fight was to go the full 3 minutes. But despite being able to take all of those hits there, which was so impressive out of them, they happened to be the one to fall down the pit of oblivion, and Suitcase Nuke won by knockout. Finally, we have our last highlight fight of the night, which features the Crusher of Famine and the Hammer of Steel Avenger. This should be an interesting one for our last highlight fight. We have Famine getting in there very early, taking a few hammer shots, but we did see lots of damage done by that Crusher here, as it wasn't long before Steel Avenger just lost the shell on their bot, leaving their electronics exposed there, which is not a good way to start this fight. And not long after that, they lost their hammer too. But despite doing all that damage, Steel Avenger had one last push and managed to get Famine down the pit of oblivion to win by knockout. Some great highlight fights there, and those will be available. The full fights will be available at the end of the season for you all to see. TX-109, Double Jeopardy, Tsunami, Suitcase Nuke, and Steel Avenger all walked away with victories in this one, and the other 5 will be in a hunt for a wildcard spot. Let's get to our next fight, where we go to the Battlebots and Bugglebots class for a face-off between 2 returners from last season. We got Axe Backwards and Witch Doctor. On one side, we have Axe Backwards, and the last time we saw them, they were in pieces after their first round face-off with Huge in their heat. But still, even though they got destroyed in that one, you don't want to underestimate that drum spinner, as that drum spinner has quite a lot of power to it. But of course, they do have problems like with those exposed wheels. Their weapon is relatively delicate, but most of all, control has been their big problem, and Huge took advantage of it big time last season. We could see Witch Doctor, their opponent, taking advantage of it. So now Witch Doctor, a fan favorite from last season, they have a nasty vertical spinner. I'm betting we are going to see a lot of destruction out of it this season, but of course, they do have those exposed sides, which their opponent could try to take advantage of in this fight. Before we get to the start of this fight, let's show some highlights from last season of one of these two competitors. Last season, Witch Doctor showed in their first fight they were not going to go down easy and they were a favorite to win this tournament. But the next round did not go so well for them, as they ended up being one of the biggest upsets of the season here, as Thunderchild ended up knocking them down the pit of oblivion. But Witch Doctor is back this season with that powerful vertical disc, stronger than ever, and they are looking to go many steps further. They proved in some of their bonus fights from last season that they do have what it takes to take a War Machine's title. Here comes Witch Doctor with that weapon going, landing a shot right off the gate here, sending Axe backwards flying. And off comes part of the drum spinner already. Axe backwards taking some serious damage, and we're not even 30 seconds into this fight. Here comes Witch Doctor right on the attack again, landing some more big hits, and Axe backwards just getting sent flying once again. Witch Doctor does seem a little off balance though. Might want to watch that vertical spinners. I think they lost a tooth on one of their spinners, but now Axe backwards in some bigger trouble. They just lost a wheel. Witch Doctor showing no mercy in this fight. Just on the attack no matter what damage they take. Sending Axe backwards flying once again. Here comes Witch Doctor once again. Axe backwards still moving like crazy there. So Witch Doctor coming in for some more hits. Landing another big one there. Another one that sends Axe backwards flying. And the rest of Axe backwards drum spinner has come off. Axe backwards has lost their weapon here and little more than a minute into this fight. Witch Doctor, hit after hit, just proving that last season the upset was all just a fluke. Here comes Witch Doctor, they got Axe backwards right where they want them, right in the corner here. But now Axe backwards got out of it. But now, Witch Doctor trying to finish the job, trying to finish Axe backwards off, and sends their drum spinner part flying, telling them that they are not getting that reattached in this fight. Witch Doctor just showing no mercy, just causing Axe backwards a lot of problems. Off comes one of the axes there. Axe backwards, they are in deep trouble here, but they do flip Witch Doctor over. Witch Doctor tries to use the floor flipper to self-right, but they will use their self-righting mechanism instead, and they are right back on the attack here while Axe backwards is spinning in circles. Axe backwards is in some serious trouble. They need to get something going fast, or this fight could get called off due to them driving in circles here. But now here comes Witch Doctor right up against the rails and hits them out of the arena, and Witch Doctor wins by knockout. All I gotta say is wow. Witch Doctor on the attack right from the start there, causing Axe backwards a lot of trouble right from the start of this fight here. As Axe backwards was taken apart piece by piece, they lost parts of their drum spinner to start this fight, soon lost a wheel in there, soon lost the rest of their drum spinner, off came an axe, and then later they were knocked out clean out of the arena in there. Witch Doctor, I'm now even questioning, did that loss from last season even happen? As that was such an impressive victory. Witch Doctor is back and stronger than ever. Now coming up next, we stay in the Battlebots and Bugglebots class, where we will see Marvin take on Wee-Woo. One side we have Marvin and their horizontal spinner. that horizontal spinner does have some power to it. Like a lot of horizontal spinners, it is invertible, basically meaning it can drive upside down. But of course, those exposed sides and exposed wheels could be a problem in this fight, where they take on Wee-Woo, a cluster bot. We have Wee, who is the bot on the right in the image, a vertical spinner, and we have Woo, who is a grabber bot, the one on the left. While they do have the advantage in numbers here, one big problem though is that half of the weight is on each bot, so their weapons and armor could be relatively delicate. According to the War Machine's rulebook for this season, Marvin will have to take out both bots in order to be awarded a KO, since these two bots are approximately equal weight, and you have to take out at least 60% of the opponent in order to be awarded with a KO. So now, let's get to the fight, as this should be interesting. Here we go, both bots coming right at Marvin, and Woo has Marvin right at the sides there, and Wee gets a few shots, and with that vertical spinner, and Marvin has been flipped over. And right now, Wee looking at the pit button, eyeing it, Woo right at the backside of Marvin, and Woo pushes Marvin down the pit of oblivion. Is that it? Did they just win in 20 seconds? Yes, they did. I did not expect them to win this fight that quickly, as we saw them just gang up on Marvin right at the beginning of this fight, do some damage here, as we saw Woo get in with that grabber and we get in with that vertical spinner. We came in there, opened up the pit of oblivion, and it wasn't long before Marvin fell down it. Excellent teamwork by the cluster bot, and I look forward to seeing this bot in the next round. We go back to the DSL class for our next fight, where we will see a battle between a Robot Wars legend and a Battlebots legend. On one side, we see Behemoth, and one thing you might be thinking is, didn't we see Behemoth in the first episode? And the answer is yes, we did. Behemoth is one of many competitors who is competing in multiple classes here, which is totally allowed. And so we have Behemoth with different design though than the one we saw in the first episode, as they have not just their lifter, they also have an axe here. Of course though, their biggest strength is they do have multiple weapons, but those exposed sides could be an issue for them if their opponent gets to them. On the other side, we have Vlad the Impaler, a Battlebots Comedy Central legend. Vlad the Impaler, another lifter bot. It is low to the ground. Even though that lifter is not the most effective, it could definitely cause some damage in this fight if their opponent is not careful. But just like Behemoth, they also have an exposed sides weakness here. I imagine both bots will be trying to get to each other's sides in this one, and this should be an interesting one. So now, let's get to it. Both bots being in the middle, and Vlad the Impaler draws first blood, getting a flip on Behemoth right at the start of this one, and they have him in the corner. But now Behemoth gets free quite quickly, and Vlad the Impaler getting a few more flips in there. Great start for them here in this one. Behemoth rams themselves into the rails, but now, right at the sides of them is Vlad the Impaler here, trying to go for another flip. Behemoth has not been able to get anything going so far, and that will definitely be something to watch here. But now Behemoth almost had an opportunity there to flip Vlad the Impaler, and Vlad the Impaler flips Behemoth and ramming them against the rails. Behemoth's got himself right and quick, as Vlad the Impaler's just ramming them right into the rails time and time again. 1 minute into this fight, and gotta say Vlad the Impaler is definitely leading on points so far if this was to go the full 3 minutes. And taking them into the rails once again is Vlad the Impaler. This is big time points for them. Behemoth gotta get something going, and fast, as Vlad the Impaler does seem like they are the low to the ground machine, but Behemoth gets their first lift in there. As here we go. Another clash there, and Behemoth gets their first flip of this fight. And rams Vlad the Impaler over once again. And another flip by Behemoth there. Behemoth starting to catch up on points here, right as we get past the halfway point in this fight. This has been quite a good fight between these two titans. As now Vlad the Impaler has Behemoth in the corner again. But now Behemoth gets a flip, and Vlad the Impaler is stuck on their backside. That's not a place to be. Behemoth helps them out, but they are on their side now. Vlad the Impaler is stuck. Behemoth looks like they're going to hang back here. Little less than a minute to go in this fight. A countdown on Vlad the Impaler has begun. Behemoth is just hanging back, and it looks like this is going to be a knockout for Behemoth. And what a fight we just saw in there. As we saw right at the beginning of this fight, Vlad the Impaler was looking like they were going to control this fight completely. He's stacking up the points in the first minute and a half of this one, just not giving Behemoth a chance and getting a lot of good flips in there. Now, as we saw that moment there, that got Vlad the Impaler quite a few points, and if this thing went to the judges, I think Vlad the Impaler may win this fight. But of course, not long after that, Behemoth managed to start getting some flips in, started racking up some points for themselves here, and eventually it wasn't long before Vlad the Impaler got stuck on their backside and then got stuck on their side and was counted out from there, giving Behemoth the win. Impressive fight by both machines, and I bet Vlad the Impaler will be a major contender for a wild card. Finally, we have our main event of the night, which is a Bugglebots 2019 Grand Finalists face-off. We got Saw Loser and Mini Spinny Mark II. Both bots are returners from last season, and they each won their first fight, but then fell in the second round of their heat. But both bots are back and looking to show that they have what it takes to win a title. On one side, we have Saw Loser, who has both a spinner and a lifter. Two very effective weapons here. They are also very fast and maneuverable, so this will be a tough design to beat. But of course, they do have those exposed wheels, which could be a major problem if they are not careful here, and I imagine their opponents will try to take advantage of those. On the other side, we have Mini Spinny, a undercutter, and that spinner has a lot of power, as we saw them beat up Warhawk quite badly through the use of that spinner, and I imagine we're going to see a lot of destruction out of it this season. So this is another bot to watch. Of course though, they do have those exposed sides, and their spinner is relatively delicate. So that could be stuff to watch and stuff their opponents might try to take advantage of. So now, this should be a fun main event, so let's get to the fight. I am looking forward to this one. Main event now begins. Saw Loser a slow approach here, same thing with Mini Spinny. Now Saw Loser right at the side of Mini Spinny gives them a lift, a little bit of air time here. That's something that Saw Loser is going to try to take advantage of. We see some weapon-on-weapon action here, and Mini Spinny gets flipped over by Saw Loser. Very effective use of that lifter. Now Saw Loser getting a few jabs at the side of Mini Spinny. That's some of the stuff that Mini Spinny was hoping to avoid here. That'll be something to watch here. Another weapon-on-weapon exchange. I saw a piece go flying after that last exchange. But now, Mini Spinny's still on the attack, even despite getting flipped and constantly getting hit by that vertical spinner. Comes Mini Spinny, still remaining aggressive. That looks very good for them in the hands of both the selection committee and the judges. And Saw Loser just remaining on the attack, just not giving Mini Spinny an inch here. I saw a tooth on Saw Loser's spinner go flying off, and there goes another weapon-on-weapon exchange, and another shot, and Saw Loser, their weapon is gone. That is not good here. Not a way to start this fight with more than half this fight to go. Mini Spinny has just decapitated Saw Loser. Saw Loser now weaponless. They will have to rely on aggression and control here to win this fight. Now they are taking hit after hit. Can they get Mini Spinny down the pit of oblivion? That might be a good option here. They might need to win it by knockout. Mini Spinny was taking a lot of big hits there, but now they caused a lot of damage of their own, making Saw Loser weaponless in this one. Mini Spinny now on the attack, trying to get to those exposed wheels there. Saw Loser's just got to be careful, and they lose a wheel. Saw Loser has lost a tire here. So now they are down to 3 wheels, and now Mini Spinny trying to go for that other wheel on that side, give Saw Loser drive on just one side. But now they are just on the attack once more, looking to cause more damage here, as we have a little more than 40 seconds left to go in this fight. Hit after hit is being taken by Saw Loser, trying to break that weapon, score some aggression control points. They lost another wheel. So now they have 2 wheels left, 1 on each side here, so they can drive just fine. But still, Saw Loser just starting to take massive amounts of damage ever since losing their entire weapon. I think I saw a piece of Mini Spinny's spinner going flying off here. That may not be good, but they sure are functioning like it was absolutely nothing. Saw Loser trying to push Mini Spinny down the pit, but it's looking like it's going to be too late because this fight is going to the judges. And I gotta say, this is not going to be an easy decision for our panel of judges here. Saw Loser right at the beginning of this fight, just getting in there, getting to the sides and Mini Spinny quite a few times, even going weapon on weapon a few times, giving Mini Spinny some airtime, giving them a lot of trouble in this one. But the turning point, it happened not long after this moment here, where this hit just decapitated Saw Loser, preventing them from having a weapon for the rest of this fight. And Saw Loser just had to take hit after hit, lost a few wheels unfortunately, which isn't going to look good for them in the hands of the judges. But still, Saw Loser managed to stack up some control and aggression points from the beginning of this fight, and even when they didn't have a weapon in this one. So this could be a very close fight. And let's hear what the judges had to say now. The judges' votes are in, and the vote was unanimous. The winner of this main event is Mini Spinny. The judges liked a lot of the damage Mini Spinny did with that primary weapon, but they did give Saw Loser credit for their aggression and control at the end of this fight and what they were able to do at the beginning of this fight. Fantastic fight by both machines, and I bet Saw Loser will have a major case for a wild card. I gotta say, what an episode that we just saw. We saw lots of fantastic fights, a brutal main event, and we saw many rising stars in this competition. We saw many returners and newcomers prove that they have what it takes to win the whole thing. If I had to name some bots that we saw whom were the stars of the night, those would be K2, Blacksmith, Beta, and Slammo, as all of them had a really impressive opening round victory. There are quite a few competitors who may not have come out on top, but some of them may have a wild card coming their way. We have a lot more action coming this season, and I am very much looking forward to it. We continue the opening round once again in the next episode, and I will hopefully see you then. See you next time.